It's midnight and you're watching Nightline. This is your top story. Homely celebrations as Muslims nationwide usher in Aidilfitri in a new normal. Good morning, I'm Preetha Manivanan. Now we'll begin with this story. The Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Riayatuddin Al-Mustafa Billah Shah on Sunday performed Aidilfitri prayers in a congregation of 30 people at the main surau of Istana Negara. Comptroller of the Royal Household, Dato' Ahmad Fadil Shamsuddin, said this was the first time His Majesty had performed the Aidilfitri prayers at the palace's main surau. This following the implementation of the Conditional Movement Control Order (CMCO) to contain the COVID-19 pandemic. By convention, His Majesty usually performs the Aidilfitri prayers at the National Mosque, Kuala Lumpur. Dato' Ahmad Fadil said the prayers were led by Istana Negara religious officer Dato' Abdul Aziz Che Yaakob, and the congregation comprised of palace officers and staff. The prayers were performed according to CMCO guidelines issued by the government and the Health Ministry. According to Dato' Ahmad Fadil, the King joined the congregation for a meal after the prayers. He added that Al-Sultan Abdullah, the Raja Permaisuri Agong Tuanku Aziza Amina Maimuna Iskandaria, and family are celebrating this year's Aidilfitri at the Istana Negara and not in Kuantan Pahang, following the enforcement of the CMCO, which is set to end on June 9th. In the meantime, about 20 Muslims attempted to continue the annual tradition of going to the mosque to perform Aidilfitri prayers at Masjid Negara Sunday morning. The group was, however, asked to leave the compound in line with the new rule against public gathering under the new normal to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. Based on reports, there were initially about 3 people at the steps outside the National Mosque's main entrance at about 8 a.m. However, by 8:30 a.m., the group grew to about 20 people, with most appearing to be foreigners. The individuals who had prepared their own prayer mats were seen taking off their footwear before praying while being spaced apart from each other. But within minutes, several police personnel were seen asking them to disperse and return home, telling them that they are not allowed to gather outside the mosque. The crowd did not object and complied with the police's instructions to disperse and leave the mosque area, and the compound was emptied out by 9 a.m. Meanwhile, our observations at Masjid At-Taqwa, Taman Tun Dr. Ismail, witnessed those fortunate enough to be able to join this year's Aidilfitri prayers did so in compliance with the new normal. In accordance with the guidelines issued by the Federal Territories Islamic Religious Department, JAWI, only 30 people were allowed to attend the prayers, including the mosque imam and Bilal, and those who were selected to attend counted their blessings.
Alhamdulillah, peluang yang sangat baik bagi saya sendiri sebab mak ayah dekat sini. Jadi tak berapa rasa sangatlah kata orang tu. Tapi apa pun suasana solat hari raya pada kali ini sangat-sangat berbeza dan rasa bertuah tu sangat meninggi sebab bukan semua dapat solat di masjid.
The attendees gathered as early as 7:30 a.m. to undergo temperature checks before being allowed into the mosque. They brought along their own prayer mats and performed the prayers while observing the rules of social distancing. The praying area, meanwhile, had earlier undergone sanitization. Frontliners at the Putrajaya Hospital were given a surprise when Health Director General Dato' Dr. Nur Hisham Abdullah dropped by for a short visit. He met with the staff and doctors manning the hospital's main lobby, emergency wards and COVID-19 screening areas. He also handed out 400 Hari Raya food packets to the frontliners and spent several minutes taking selfies with them while maintaining a social distance. Dato' Dr. Nur Hisham Abdullah also took the opportunity to extend extend his appreciation to all frontliner medical personnel for their sacrifices. He noted that medical personnel are working on rotation while emergency rooms are operating 24 hours a day. He urged those celebrating Hari Raya to adhere to the CMCO and the ministry's safety guidelines. Datuk Dr. Nur Hisham also later visited several other health facilities in Putrajaya. Also accompanying him were Deputy Director General Medical Department Datuk Dr. Rohaizat Yon and Putrajaya Hospital Director Datuk Dr. Norai Muhammad Said. Now, this year's Aidilfitri celebration is different altogether since the Movement Control Order MCO came into force on March 18th. Institute on Jaffa IOJs, however, is determined to usher in its first Shawwal with the homeless and the underprivileged through its Jom Raya program. Now, our reporter Miza Shafiza Muhammad Fuad has this story.
When it comes to Aidilfitri celebration, we all know it always involves family. While we are all feeling sad, we cannot go balik kampung due to COVID-19 pandemic and the conditional movement control order, there are people who just had no choice but to be alone. Jom Raya program this year continues to celebrate 50 residents at the Homeless Transit Centre so they will not miss the fun.
For the Institute, it is unfortunate this year as the program can no longer be celebrated in a big scale as compared to previous years. But there is the Homeless Transit Centre, PTG.
Sangat berbeza tahun ini sebab sebelum ini tahun-tahun ini kami mengadakan di PTG dan sememangnya ia merupakan satu sambutan yang sangat meriah di mana kami merayakan kira-kira 200 gelandangan yang menetap di sini maupun di persekitaran Chowkit.
Held for the 6th consecutive year, Aidilfitri delicacies such as nasi impit, kuah kacang and many more were delivered and distributed to the residents in the morning. In the new atmosphere, the residents here have accepted that it is all right to skip the balik kampung tradition for the sake of health and safety.
Memang rasa macam sunyi lah sebab tak meriah macam dulu lah. Tapi ya, macam mana saya cakap, memang kalau hati tu memang sayu lah sebab kita tak boleh nak ke mana, nak balik kampung tak boleh. Dekat sini je lah, harapkan teman-teman je lah sebagai kita punya kawan-kawan raya kat sini. Saya nak ucapkan selamat Hari Raya Aidilfitri Ma'azah dan Batin kepada ibu saya, Zainab binti Ahmad. Memang rindu lah sebab Hari Raya kan, kita dah salam dengan dia. Memang tak dapat lah. Tahun lepas pun memang tak dapat. So tahun ni pun memang tak dapat. Itulah yang kita harapkan lah. Sebab semua orang impikan pagi raya dapat salam dengan mak. So bila dia telefon kenapa tak balik, kita pun tak boleh nak bagi jawapan. Semua yang dia faham teki bibi lah. Itu je.
Alhamdulillah lah. Meriah. Sebelum ni sepetang kara je. Saya dah pisah dengan isteri. Selamat Raya Masjid Batin. Pertamanya kepada ibu saya lah, Siti Mulia bin Hashim, berada di Tanjung Karang. Dan anak-anak serta bekas isteri saya.
Miza Shafiza for Nightline TV3.
The CMCO Compliance Operations Task Force performed nearly 100,000 checks on the eve of Hari Raya Aidilfitri. This in addition to a total of 162 roadblocks, which were also in place to curb interstate travel. National Security Council's Senior Minister for Security Cluster, Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob, said a total of more than 157,000 vehicles were checked at these roadblocks, with 1,158 vehicles told to make U-turns for trying to balik kampung without police permission. In a statement Sunday, he said a total of 156 individuals were arrested Saturday, of which 50 individuals were remanded for breaking the SOP, while the CMCO Compliance Operations Task Force performed checks on more than 7,000 supermarkets, 5,000 restaurants, 1,000 hawker stalls, 1,000 factories, as well as 4,000 banks. Also inspected were land transport terminals, hotels, water transport terminals, airports, markets, places of worship, recreational areas and also construction sites. On another issue, Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri said that 271 Malaysians who tried to enter the country yesterday from Singapore, Indonesia, Qatar and Japan have been quarantined. In total, 40,264 Malaysians who have come home from overseas have been quarantined since April 3rd. Malaysians who celebrated Hari Raya Aidilfitri should be grateful as the COVID-19 situation in other countries is far worse than in Malaysia, says Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. Speaking in his Aidilfitri posting over Facebook, the former Prime Minister said the MCO put in place by the government is the best approach in reducing the number of infections.
Kita harus bersyukur kerana di negara-negara lain keadaan jauh lebih teruk. Mereka nak ada sekatan-sekatan pun tak dapat. Mereka bercampur-campur, mereka tak mengikut aturan-peraturan dan dengan itu ada besar kemungkinan selepas raya akan ada di antara mereka yang mengidap sakit penyakit ini. Tetapi di Malaysia kita tertib, kita patuh kepada aturan-peraturan. InsyaAllah dengan ini, penyakit ini akan berkurangan. Hari ini pun sudah kurang.
Tun Dr. Mahathir and his wife Tun Dr. Siti Hasma Muhammad Ali also took the opportunity to wish Malaysians Selamat Hari Raya Aidilfitri.
Mereka yang baru dapat penyakit ini.
After the break, Hari Raya Aidilfitri turns tragic for a family in Sabah. Details next. Welcome back. Now, Malaysia reported 60 more COVID-19 cases on Sunday, bringing the country's total infections to 7,245. Health Director General Dr. Nur Hisham Abdullah in a statement said that 33 more patients had also been discharged. Out of the 60 new cases reported, 7 were imported cases, while the others were local transmissions. Of the 53 local transmissions, 44 involved foreigners. 27 of them were detected at the Semeni Immigration Detention Centre, while 6 cases were detected at the Sepang Immigration Centre. The 6 new cases in Sepang are considered to be a new cluster of cases. Meanwhile, no new fatalities were reported over the past 24 hours. Malaysia's COVID-19 recovery rate is now at 82% of the total number of positive cases. There are 1,185 active cases being treated at the country's health facilities at present. Hari Raya Aidilfitri turned tragic for a family in southwestern Beaufort, Sabah, when a mother and her 4 grown-up sons died in a fire that razed their house. The woman, identified as Aisha Jumat, 58, perished in the fire that also took the lives of her sons Zulkarnain Othman, 34, Zul Nisham, 27, Rozaini, 26, and Roshdi, 24. Two other sons, aged 24 and 29, survived but suffered severe burns. The 2 are being treated at the Beaufort Hospital. The woman's 64-year-old husband, identified as Othman Ali, along a daughter-in-law, escaped unhurt. Sabah Fire and Rescue Department Director Kamarul Zaman Malik Abdullah said they received a distress call at 2:45 a.m. Firemen from Kuala Penyu rushed to the scene and took nearly 2 hours to bring the fire under control, by which the house was completely destroyed. Authorities are still investigating the cause of the fire. In Pahang, a 21-year-old man and his 20-year-old girlfriend were killed in an accident in Jerantot on Sunday morning. In the 8:50 a.m. fatal crash, their motorcycle skidded into a drain near Taman Kalisa Emas. Initial probe revealed that the motorcyclist, Amir Adam Abdul Wahab, did not possess a license, while the machine had brake issues. Both Amir Adam and his girlfriend, Nur Anira Ahmad Nazari, died at the scene of the accident. It was learned that Amir Adam was sending her to work in Jerantot when the accident occurred. Their bodies were sent to Hospital Jerantot for post-mortem. In Kota Tinggi, Johor, police seized 26 motorcycles in a special operation to curb illegal racing at kilometre 24, Jalan Kota Tinggi, Rengit, late Saturday night. The operation, carried out from 10 p.m. Saturday night to 4 a.m. Sunday morning, was led by Inspector Hafizi Syed along with 4 officers and 34 traffic police. A number of individuals aged between 12 and 28 years old were also arrested for breaching the CMCO. Traffic police also issued 96 summons for various offences along with 47 compounds. The newly upgraded Jalan Kota Tinggi Rengit has frequently seen the roads being transformed into an illegal racing track, especially during the weekends, and police believe the activity also involves illegal betting. Coming up, Aidilfitri Celebration goes virtual in the UK. This and more after the breather. You're still with us on Nightline. Now, Muslims across Britain celebrate Aidilfitri remotely on Sunday, with many mosques set to host virtual prayers and the public urged to practice social distancing as the United Kingdom is still under movement control order measures. A Malaysian residing in London, Megat Nakiuddin Sonari, said this, however, will be an Aidilfitri like no other and will certainly make the most of it with a difference. Now, we spoke to him earlier and he shares his experience celebrating Aidilfitri thousands of miles away from home under lockdown. During the first morning of Shawwal, many Malaysians would gather at the Malaysian High Commission in the English capital to pray. But this year, the British Muslim Council have issued advice for Muslims to stay at home for the Aidilfitri celebration and adhere to physical distancing measures to curb the spread of COVID-19. Thanks to the closely knitted community of Malaysians, Aidilfitri does not feel so lonely for those residing in London.
In London, we are still in lockdown. The mosques are still closed. And I think Malaysia Hall is still closed. Nonetheless, we are still in contact between us Malaysians here in London. So the plan today is actually to exchange food. Looking forward to that food exchange later. It's a new experience for me, celebrating Raya abroad without my family. So last week actually, it was my first time baking some Malay kuih Raya.
According to Megat Nakiuddin, who has been residing in London for 4 years, he video called his family members and friends to make up for the losses.
I was supposed to fly home last week, but I guess obviously it didn't happen. But things happen for a reason. I think we'll just make the best out of it. So this morning, I managed to call my family. It's a sad experience, but at least on the bright side, I get to see them in the morning of Shawwal via video call. I also managed to call a few friends as well. It's a totally new experience, but I guess everyone is facing the same dilemma. Selamat Hari Raya, maaf Zahir dan Batin to all Malaysians, especially to my family and friends. May our good deeds in Ramadan be accepted and may we be united with our family soon, inshallah.
The UK went into lockdown at the same time, but it has emerged that London could be released from restrictions quicker than other parts of the country as the city has lower rates of infection. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson recently outlined a roadmap for easing England's restrictions, but that led to some confusion, with ministers interpreting the PM's message differently. China is open to international cooperation to identify the source of COVID-19. Its Foreign Minister Wang Yi, however, said any investigation must be free of political interference. This after he blasted what he called efforts by US politicians to fabricate rumors about the pathogen's origins and stigmatize China. The United States and Australia have called in recent weeks for an investigation into the origins of the pandemic. Both US President Donald Trump and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo have accused China of a lack of transparency over the issue and repeatedly pushed the theory that the virus leaked from a Chinese maximum security laboratory. Most scientists believe the virus jumped from animals to humans, possibly from a market selling exotic animal meat in the central Chinese city of Wuhan. The World Health Organization WHO has also called on Beijing to invite them in to investigate the source, with China proposing that the global response to COVID-19 should only be assessed when the pandemic is over. Meanwhile, the Chinese Virology Institute in the city where COVID-19 first emerged has 3 live strains of bat coronavirus on site, but its director said none matched the new contagion, wreaking chaos across the world. The director of the Wuhan Institute of Virology told state broadcaster CGTN that claims made by US President Donald Trump and others that the virus could have been leaked from the facility were pure fabrication. Now, Singapore reported 548 new COVID-19 cases as of noon Sunday, taking its total number of coronavirus infections to 31,616. According to its health ministry, vast majority of new cases are foreign workers living in dormitories, and 3 of the new cases are Singaporeans or permanent residents. As we wrap up Nightline this time round, the Media Prima News and Current Affairs team would like to take this opportunity to wish everyone celebrating Selamat Hari Raya Aidilfitri, Maaf Zahir dan Batin. I am Prita Manivanan. Thanks for watching and good night.
Saya Syed Hussein Al-Junaid mewakili Media Prima mengucapkan Selamat Hari Raya Aidilfitri, Maaf Zahir dan Batin kepada seluruh penonton Media Prima. Selamat Hari Raya Aidilfitri, Maaf Zahir dan Batin.
The English team would like to wish Selamat Hari Raya Aidilfitri, Maaf Zahir dan Batin.
Kami dari unit BE ingin mengucapkan Selamat Hari Raya Aidilfitri, Maaf Zahir dan Batin. #duduk rumah bisik.
Kami dari unit grafik yang bekerja pada raya tahun ini ingin mengucapkan Selamat Hari Raya Aidilfitri, Maaf Zahir dan Batin.
#kita jaga kita.
Selamat Hari Raya, Maaf Zahir dan Batin. #duduk di rumah.
Kami daripada unit keselamatan polis bantuan TV3 mengucapkan Selamat Hari Raya Aidilfitri, Maaf Zahir dan Batin.
Kami dari unit berita Media Prima mengucapkan
Selamat Hari Raya, Maaf Zahir dan Batin.
Raya-raya juga, kita jaga kita.
Okey, Pak.